Good afternoon. My name is Sean Buckley with the Natural Health Product Protection Association, and we're here to announce that tomorrow history is being made. The citizens of Canada have banded together and created the third largest paper petition in the history of our nation, and those paper petitions are going to be delivered to MP Blaine Culkins on the Hill tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. And then we're also having another event at Bikers Church at 6:30 p.m. And I want to share with you how this came about. And we're in a very interesting country, and I think we're in the middle of a cultural shift where before we trusted our government institutions on almost everything. We've been marching across the land holding live events. We started in Victoria on October 4th for our first live event, and we've been driving across the nation since then, and now we're in Ottawa for this historic event. But as we've been driving across the land and having people share, one thing has become absolutely clear, and that is that people are no longer willing to trust government. I asked the live audiences, like even 20 years ago when you went to the supermarket, were you really concerned about our food supply? And almost everyone agrees, no, back then they weren't concerned. But our government has had control of our food supply, Health Canada, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, for quite some time. And if we were to ask the question, and it almost has to be a rhetorical question, and that is could our food supply be more toxic without the population reacting en masse and demanding change? It's almost like we're just at that line where if we crossed it anymore, if our food became any more toxic, it would be absolutely intolerable. For example, anyone watching this, if we tested you for glyphosate, you have glyphosate in you. So we find ourselves where we all have a toxic load, and one of the leading causes of chronic illness is toxic overload. We've been having an online health show being broadcast all day for the last 20 days, and several speakers, famous actor Nick Mancuso, for example, or Udo Erasmus, who really is the godfather of essential oils and healthy fats. So these two well-known people share their stories on how they were basically crippled and on death's door because of toxic overload. And there's other speakers on that. This is a significant issue facing all of Canadians, and it's an absolute failure. And Canadians are beginning to understand that they can't trust anymore, that they have to take personal responsibility for what's happening, which is why we're delivering on behalf of the citizens of Canada the third largest paper petition in our history. Another problem with our food supply is, as surprising as it may be to our regulatory bodies, humans need certain nutrients to be healthy. And if we don't get those nutrients, we're unhealthy. The U.S. Department of Agriculture regularly surveys the food supply for essential vitamins and minerals. And since 1900, they have been steadily decreasing. And we have long passed the point where Canadians, even eating well, trying to eat fresh foods and eat organic, we're long past the point where you can avoid chronic illness without supplementing with essential nutrients. That's what the bulk of the natural health product community is. When we talk natural health products, the lion's share are just essential nutrients that we are no longer getting in our food supply. The reason why they've become so popular, with over 70% of Canadians using them regularly, is we just intuitively know that we need to supplement because we're not getting what we need in our food supply. It is no secret that if you're malnourished, that you become chronically sick. And there is condition after condition after condition where we can identify clearly the nutrients where if we're deficient in, we become ill. Again, another rhetorical question. I mean, is it that most of our chronic illnesses are caused by malnutrition? And yet our universal health care, which has adopted an allopathic model. Our doctors are not trained to identify nutritional deficiencies. They're not trained to address them. And at this online health show, we've done something that's never been done before. We've had ordinary Canadian after ordinary Canadian after ordinary Canadian share their health journeys. I'm just going to share one with you to drive home the type of story that we've been getting, but it's been all conditions. It's been life and death. It's been people completely disabled in the medical system and found absolute freedom and health through the natural health community. But one lady who spoke in Grand Prairie, Karen Peters, has really affected me. She was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. She was suffering terribly. And her medical doctor advised her, there is no cure. You're going to have this for the rest of your life. In fact, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. We are going to give you drugs, chemical drugs, to slow down the progression of the disease and try to reduce your inflammation. But you will end up in a wheelchair, and this will kill you. One of the drugs that he prescribes for her was methotrexate, a chemotherapy drug. She actually had the opportunity to choose which chemotherapy drug and how much each one cost. She chose methotrexate. And so for a full year, she is injecting herself with a chemotherapy drug, and she describes for the people in Grand Prairie, and you can watch this online, she describes how the drug made her want to die, that it made her so sick, so nauseous, that for 3 or 4 days of each week, she was wishing she was dead. She still had rheumatoid arthritis. It was still progressing. She was in tremendous pain, and she was facing for the rest of her life injecting herself with a chemotherapy drug. She then goes to see a naturopathic doctor, and the first thing she says to the naturopathic doctor is, I have an incurable illness. And the first thing the naturopathic doctor says to her is, there are no incurable illnesses. And then he goes on to treat her illness with nutrition and natural remedies. And she is on no drugs. She is perfectly healthy. She is in no pain. She is no longer facing a wheelchair. She is no longer facing death. How many Karens are out there where they have rheumatoid arthritis and they are weekly being injected with chemotherapy drugs, wishing they were dead? Is there 5,000? Is there 10,000? Is there 100,000? One is too many. Now, why don't they know that they can find relief? And you watch this online health show. We've been broadcasting for 20 days. The past days are on the nhppa.org site for everyone to see. There's person after person after person, condition after condition after condition, where people were literally dying, were absolutely disabled, suffering terribly in the mainstream medical system, and they didn't know that they could find hope, and they found hope. Now, they didn't know because we have 100% censorship of truthful information in Canada. You can only sell even vital nutrients with Health Canada's permission. So we live in a country where even to get the vital nutrients that we need to be healthy, to thrive, you have to get Health Canada's permission. Well, once you get a drug approved, our vital nutrients are considered to be drugs. So once you get a drug approved, be that a chemical drug for antidepressant, for example, all you're allowed to say it's an antidepressant. You're not allowed to share any other health information. So here we have the natural health community where person after person after person is finding freedom from death sentences, from extreme suffering. But the practitioners who know their stories can't share them with you, or Health Canada will go after them. The manufacturers that know about these stories can't share them with you, or Health Canada will go after them. So we're sharing them for the very first time. And Canadians are feeling empowered for the first time in a long time. Now let's talk about the Charter of Health Freedom. That's what this petition is about. And again, the Charter of Health Freedom is about Canadians taking responsibility for themselves again. Because the reality is we are getting tired of having to ask the government for permission to be healthy. We are tired to be asking the government for permission to take enough vitamin D for us to have healthy immune systems. We are tired of basically allowing you to have responsibility over our own lives. So what the Charter of Health Freedom does is it takes those basic health rights that our common law courts, our court system, has said that we have, and it has set them out in writing. And it states we have these rights, and at common law, there's no justification clause like Section 1 in the Charter. These are base health rights that government laws cannot transgress, and that government actions can't transgress. These are our basic health rights that our courts have said that we have. This is part of our legal tradition as Canadians, as citizens of Canada. We set them out clearly, and we state what the common law says, is that government laws must adhere to these basic rights, and that government actions must adhere to these basic rights. We're also, again, tired of fighting to get access to vital nutrients. So the Charter moves the regulation of these products from Health Canada, creates a new Ministry of Wellness with the legal duty to protect and promote our access to vital nutrients and natural remedies. We've been using ginger tea for 3,000 years to treat nausea. We shouldn't need Health Canada permission to continue in 2025. There is a list of essential nutrients we need that we can no longer get in our food supply. We should not need government permission to get those basic things that as humans we require to be healthy, not only healthy, but thrive. So this is what the Health Charter is. It's a very simple piece of citizen legislation. Now, what happened is then to get support for this charter, we had the Clerk of Petitions approve a petition simply calling on Parliament to pass the Charter of Health Freedom into law. It's a paper petition. It's not an electronic petition. And health food stores and concerned citizens, this has all been grassroots. There's never been a paid ad. All by grassroots. Citizens have collected signatures. And we are advised by the Clerk of Petitions that this makes us the third largest. We have over 153,000 signatures. We're not sure because of the postal strike how many actual signatures we have, but at least 153,000, which makes us the third largest paper petition in our 157 years as a nation. Now, this is significant news. This is a significant citizen action taking responsibility for themselves. This is the citizens saying we want control over our lives again. We want recognition of our basic health rights that are our inheritance as part of Canadians. And we want to take responsibility back for our own health, for the health and well-being of our own families. That's what this is about. It's a grassroots initiative. Now, it's interesting that the citizens have to band together and do this, but it's been an absolute honor. So what's happened is we, my wife Teresa and I, we started in Victoria on October 4th, and we've been marching across the country holding live events. So Victoria, Vancouver, Aldergrove, Kelowna, Kamloops, just Grand Prairie, Lloydminster, it just goes on. And then we had a group start in Charlottetown, and they're marching towards Ottawa and meeting us on October 25th. And then we had a group start in Quebec City, and they've been holding live events, and they're coming to Ottawa tomorrow to meet us on October 25th. And then we had a group in Whitehorse who were not willing to drive. I'm just joking because you can't. So they've flown, and they're joining us on the Hill on October 25th at 1 o'clock to present these petitions. So what this represents is, and I'll just back up and say all of these live events have been put together and run just by people volunteering. So this has truly been a grassroots initiative that is changing the dialogue. What we want is we want to have a honest dialogue on health policy where the only question being asked is how do we get the best health outcomes? And it starts with passing the Charter of Health Freedom. So I'm very excited that with me is MP Blaine Calkins, who has demonstrated over the years a strong commitment to Canadians being able to have access to natural remedies and to be able to take personal responsibility for their own lives. He's the MP that we've chosen just to honor him to receive these petitions. And he has also introduced into Parliament Bill 224, which is, I'll ask him to speak about, but it's a bill that is an effort to help protect our access to natural remedies. So, MP Blaine Calkins, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Well, thank you, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure to be here today and to speak about the efforts that many across the country have undertaken in order to restore the traditional definition of natural health products. Some of you may know the government passed a Budget Implementation Act, Bill C-47, a number of years back, which basically changed the definition of natural health products to that of therapeutic products, which means that all of the fines, all of the approval structures, and all of the cost recovery mechanisms that large pharmaceutical companies have to go through now apply to the natural health product industry, and this is simply untenable. What this will do is it will reduce opportunities, create red tape and bureaucracy, increase costs and expenses, and reduce innovation and development of natural health products, and thereby driving up costs and reducing choice for Canadian consumers in how to take care of their own personal health needs as they see fit. So in the last Parliament, I tabled Bill C-368, which passed at second reading and actually passed the committee stage, but wasn't able to advance further in the House of Commons before the 45th general election. In this particular Parliament, I was lucky enough to return after the election, and I've committed to tabling basically the same bill over again. That bill now is number 224, and the first hour of debate on that will be November 17th of this year. I was lucky to be drawn high in the order of precedence, and should this Parliament last for any significant length of time, we should be able to get that bill passed through the House and through the Senate, but it will require the same support from various political parties that it required in the last Parliament. We are in a minority Parliament again. Opposition parties last time passed this bill. Hopefully the government will take heed of the size of this petition and take heed of the outcry that they've heard from Canadians during the last Parliament and assist in the passage of Bill C-224, swift passage of Bill C-224, and making sure that the law is changed, restoring the traditional definition of natural health products to be regulated as an entity upon themselves, which is where at least they should be for the time being. And I'm happy to do that, and I thank Sean and others from across the country who have been instrumental in helping me understand the industry even better, understand the effects that it has on everyday Canadians, including my own family. And an astronomical number of Canadians rely on natural health products every day in their life, well over 70%, some say as many as 80%. That's 30 million Canadians using natural health products. So this is a very, very important issue, and I'm so glad that the interest is there through the size of the petition that is going to be presented to me tomorrow, and I look forward to tabling that in the House of Commons. Thank you.
So just thank MP Blaine Calkins for his support for our right to take responsibility over our own lives and access vital nutrients, and call on all Canadians to help support this bill, Bill 224, and call on all Canadians to join with us with what we're doing. We're viewing tomorrow, so dropping off these petitions and dropping off a copy of the Health Charter to MP Blaine Calkins. We're viewing this as the beginning. So we've now drawn awareness to the issue, but we need to band together as Canadians, take personal responsibility for ensuring that our MPs, our elected representatives, hear our voice, and that's going to mean you're going to have to use your voice. So I'm inviting everyone to join us at nhppa.org, become part of the solution, become part of taking personal responsibility for your own health. Thank you.
We have no reporter on Zoom and you're in the room, so this will conclude the press conference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
So Are we still on air? Okay. So I'll just, maybe I will comment though. And we were just informed that there's no reporters in the Zoom room. There are no reporters in present. And that in itself is a story. Obviously not for the mainstream media. But how often is it that citizens feel the need to band together and basically create a health charter just to entrench the rights that we already have, not to create anything new, and just to change the regulatory environment to ensure that we have access to vital nutrients? That in itself is a news story, but for some reason that's objectionable. Well, here we have the third largest paper petition to be delivered to Parliament in our 157 years as a nation. That is news. Whether you support what the petition for is not, that is news. And yet we have had a professional editor draft 2 press releases, one at the beginning of the tour and one for this press conference, and have, paid the wire service to send it out to the media, done everything that we absolutely can to draw the media's attention to this. And then the way that this was structured, with grassroots Canadians basically going across the land with volunteers organizing event after event after event, where in almost all of them it was standing room only. That is also news. So I think we'll just recognize at the end of this press conference that the absence of the media here tells us something. It's like in Sherlock Holmes, the dog that didn't bark was a clue. And I think that means that we're going to have a lot of work for us going forward to get responsibility over our own bodies back. Thank you.
Well said.
Well said, Sean.
Okay.
Okay. Yup.